What's up, y'all? It's real good. I'm finally up at a decent hour. I cleaned up the kitchen, made some tea, and I've got some water. I'm gonna go out and meditate now. Go ahead and find a nice, comfortable place to sit. Go ahead and take a seat. Close your eyes and begin breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just 3 breaths like we usually do. Release. In through the nose, filling the belly, the lungs. Exhale, releasing the body. Inhaling long and tall through the spine, filling the belly, opening the lungs up into the throat. And exhale, releasing through the mouth, letting the body drop and going ahead and dropping into noticing your body first. So before I drop into Somatic today, I'm actually going to do something that I used to do quite a bit, which is for about an hour, I spend 10 minutes each, about 10 minutes each, checking in with the body, checking with the whole body, just physical sensations, and then releasing myself from my body, then checking in with feelings and emotions, especially in my guts, and then releasing myself from those. Then we get up into thoughts, surface level thoughts, the inner monologue, dialogue. Notice, and then begin to let them fade and release from them. And then start to spend time up in that post-mind space, in this peaceful void. The idea in this case is that as I return to myself, I'm going to return directly to my somatic present experience, the feelings in the body. I'm going to maintain in that state, devoid of the story, for quite some time. So we're actually going to put our usual somatic sort of meditation after an hour-long clearing meditation where we clear out body, feelings, mind, and hang out up in the void. Let's get into it. I welcome you to meditate whichever way makes sense for you. I'm not going to make this video an hour long. If you want that, let me know. Go ahead and add that to the comments. In the meantime, go ahead and continue your breathing and hit pause on this video. Go ahead and drop into our usual somatic meditation. I'll catch up with you soon. After our 3 breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, go ahead and return to a natural, extended breathing in and out through the nose. And then begin to check in with your body with a body scan. Take about 10 minutes. Pause the video now. Great. Now go ahead and begin checking with your emotions, your feelings, more subtle sensations in your guts. Spend about 10 minutes noticing and releasing, and letting yourself fade further into yourself, closer to the observer. Go ahead and pause this video now. The final part of our clearing meditation will be to notice our thoughts. Now that we've released our body, released our emotions, we're going to notice our thoughts, let them fade, release our thoughts, release our mind space, and drift gently into a post-mind bliss. Go and do this for 10 or 20 minutes. You can pause the video now. I will let you know that on your return, after about 10 or 20 minutes, or whenever you feel like returning, that's when we're going to return into our usual somatic connection with self meditation. Okay, go ahead and pause the video now. As you begin returning to yourself here in the present moment, come back into your body, noticing your feelings, bodily sensations, maybe sounds in the present moment, but focusing on keeping with self. Really drop in and anchor in with yourself. I'll leave this one open-ended, but we want to do at least 5 or 10 minutes re-meeting ourselves, grounding into our somatic experience. Let's go ahead and pause the video now. Welcome back. At this point, you can gently open your eyes, return to looking around the room, become fully present, invite all your senses. But still leave our mind quiet for now. Really stay in our body and somatic experience. And you might feel like getting up and beginning to move around. I welcome you to actually turn this off and get up and move your body a bit. Maybe you'd like to go for a walk. Maybe you'd like to do yoga. Maybe a little bit of gentle rolling around, kind of contact improv warm up. Go ahead and stay with your body. Go ahead and take a break from where you're seated. Pause this video now. Welcome back, welcome back. So I personally had a hard time right from the beginning. I was excited to sit and meditate, but I had a hard time really feeling my body, just my body. I felt quite a bit of peace, but I couldn't really get in touch with my body. So I ended up, after about 15 or 20 minutes, digressing into a bit of yoga. I stopped sitting, I laid down and started stretching a little bit, partly just because I felt called, but even earlier during the meditation, I had the sense and story that when I move my body and use my body and exercise first, it's easier for me to be in touch with my body. So that kind of worked out well. One of the indicators that I had finally left my body was a noticeably large energetic gap between my will and the ability to move my body. So curiosity and impulse to do a new yoga pose would result in no action. My body was laying down and I had gone somewhere else. So then I leaned into checking for emotions and feelings. That part ended up being difficult for me as well. Put my left hand on my belly and my right hand on my heart. And it took a few minutes of me trying to sort of alternative entrances, like noticing sounds or more subtle sensations in my body before I began to start noticing emotions and feelings. The emotions and feelings I was finding were really subtle. And once I was finding them, as soon as I opened up to them, they would clear out, almost like a cleaning. This was kind of unexpected. This was not the plan or the goal. It was just my experience. At this point, I sat up and redid all the steps I'd done so far, clearing the body, clearing the emotions and the feelings, because I know if I go post-mind while lying down, I'm just going to drop into sleep land. The second sweep through body and emotions was easier, deeper, and more thorough. Around that time, we were coming up on about 30 minutes. Around that time, I began to find the opening into spaciousness from mind. It's not that the inner monologue, the voice or the thoughts completely faded, but rather I began settling away from them. There was spaciousness. I was settling deeper into the indifferent observer. There's lots of different names for this that I relate to, like place of mindfulness. It's actually more post-mind. Post-mind is the term I use. When it's complete, I call it the void. It's kind of a place of loving kindness. Loving kindness combined with indifference. Don't need to chase any of the thoughts. Very akin to inner peace. I wouldn't necessarily call it bliss or nirvana or enlightenment, but it's near bliss and nirvana. It's more like a peace and a spaciousness, a sort of disconnect from the ego and from the body. We can start to sort of see a spread stack of our being from a higher seat of self. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, make sure you're giving this a try. I think it's something that needs to be experienced. So around that time, I'm coming up on 40 minutes as I was drifting into post-mind. During this time, I could still feel my monkey mind trying to chime in with stories and non-present fantasies and stories and scripts. But this has all become a lot easier since doing somatic work over the last few years. This was much more difficult a few years ago. I noticed that the bodily part and the feeling part is actually a little bit more difficult because they already felt clear. It took a little while to get down into a more subtle layer to notice any sort of concrete or crystallized things going on. But the part of getting through the mind felt much easier. My mind has turned much more peaceful, much more quiet and slow. All right, let's drop into the post-mind space. I'll be back. Around 45 minutes. I still hadn't gone completely post-mind. There were some thin layers toward the end there where I was visited on my left by Tara Brach, Sadhguru, and Ram Dass, and on my right by Osho with his right hand reaching across and on my heart. And then it was as if I was an ovum moving down a fallopian tube with eyes. And then there were sort of grandiose visions and stories which I have mixed feelings about. I don't mind them in and of themselves, but I have mixed feelings about their relationship with ego. I'm going to go deeper. I'll be back. There's a sense of walking a straight and narrow path along the side of an infinite dam. To my left, steeply downward was certain death, and to my right, steeply upward, was impossible to climb but could be leaned against for rest. And I'm taking this as a metaphor, where leaning to the right, I can get stability through something like a job, ordinary, more familiar living circumstances. Leaning to the left could be disastrous, worthy of caution with my step, but orthogonally, there's a forward path that is certain. I may not see where it goes yet. It may be endless. I can take breaks leaning up against the right, but it's not necessarily giving me progress on this orthogonal direction. Just a metaphor. Just a vision. Just an experience. Right, going further. around 50 minutes through some familial tangents that actually came from reflection on dancing. I ended up in a place of love. I'm pretty distant from the tangents at this point. They're sort of going on in a sort of dream state beneath me, if that makes any sense. My first act of clinging was to welcome myself to stay with that feeling of loving kindness, immerse in it, and it very quickly began to expand and fill most of my noticeable state of being. I'm actually going to keep leaning into this. In this place of love and kindness, there was a sense of freedom from a sort of conquest for the post-mind. And I noticed that I began allowing the feeding of this loving conquest through reflections of gratitude, which almost seemed to be re-engaging the mind. But I felt an openness to feeding the state of loving kindness with reflections, memories, and visions of gratitude and kindness. It seems largely for people in my life so far. So gratitude for others, love for others, and this immersive overall sense of loving kindness. So at this point, I leaned into a heart-opening yoga pose just as a sort of experiment, but also to anchor this feeling somewhere where I've already been anchoring loving kindness in the past. And then sat up a bit taller, and then turned my palms upward. And I began to lean into reflections and sense of relation. Didn't want to get into a yelling match with the plane overhead. I began to lean into relations that are traditionally troubling for me, places where I might hold resentment, grudge, or blame. I came in with the loving kindness and gratitude to dissolve quite a bit of that. I'm going to go back into that and do more work there. For me, this experience is what I really believe and relate to the term forgiveness. Feeling as though I can love fully a person that I think has wronged me, regardless of whether or not they've repented or apologized. And it has nothing to do with me telling them I'm sorry. It's just a capacity to love instead of hold resentment, blame, judgment. So this to me feels like a state of forgiveness, loving forgiveness. And it's freeing for me, as well as them in relation to me, of course. And finally I get to the most difficult subject or target of loving kindness and forgiveness, myself. All the judgments and blame and guilt and shame. All right, here we go. I'm going to go spend quite a bit of time there. It's probably where we'll end, but we'll see. When directing the loving kindness to forgiving ourselves, I think it's important to bring an attitude of humbleness to avoid accidentally just inflating ego. In bringing the humbleness, I feel a sort of freedom or release. Like, oh, like I can be young again. Like I don't deserve suffering. I don't deserve self-punishment. Sort of lightness. Let's end this with a lean into a gratitude for what is, taking this loving kindness we've shared towards our projection of others. We've done the difficult work of applying to ourselves and apply it outward to reality, however things may be, human condition, full stack of our existence. All right, 10 more minutes. Go ahead and pause this video. See you soon. Directing loving kindness towards what is, with an openness to all that may be, brings for me a sense of abundance, peace, and lightness. And in that I find some final layers of myself, nondescript, unclear, feel like they melt away, because I feel left with a lightness, a presence. I feel back in the present moment. And as advertised, let's go ahead and drop back into the somatic and reconnect with our body and our feelings. Leave our mind clear. And welcome us to keep this sense of love and kindness and bring it back into our body. Feel our body. Where do we feel it in our bodies? Come present. And then when you feel that you've integrated, you've connected, you've anchored a lot of the value that you've gotten out of this meditation back into yourself in the present moment, you can begin to open your eyes, look around the room, and eventually feel free to turn this off, go for a walk, or do something else peaceful and meaningful to you. So that's been an hour for me. I feel loving kindness as a sort of strength or density across my chest. I also feel a tiredness in my arms and a soreness in my legs. Feeling at peace with stories and things I've been worried about earlier. I feel spaciousness there. Gratitude for life and being alive. Gratitude for the day. Curiosity about the day. Sort of excitement to love people that I come across today. A gratitude for that disposition. Let's go ahead and end same way we started. Breathing in through the nose. And out through the mouth. 3 times total. 2 more. In through the nose. Expanding the belly and then the lungs. Releasing through the mouth. Releasing the tension in the body. One last breath, deep in through the nose. Exhaling, go ahead and fall forward, release, relax. Go ahead and roll over, relax, move your body, return to the present moment. Appreciate yourself in a very simple way for doing this work. Thanks for being here with me. If you get value out of this, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, get notifications of new videos. Leave in the comments any sort of questions you have or requests. I'd love to hear your experience if you did this meditation with me. Let me know how it was for you. Let me know what sort of things you saw when we were getting into that almost post-mind space. All right, y'all. It's been real good. This has been a 1 hour somatic post-mind loving kindness meditation. Thanks for taking this journey. I'll see y'all again soon.